Hey, maximum attention. First of all, it is necessary to know that since the year 1962, on February 4th, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon, the age of Aquarius, the water bearer, began. There was an event that you will remember in your memories. I refer to that Congress of Worlds, of planets that met, precisely, in the constellation of the water bearer. It was truly a congestion of celestial transit, a meeting of worlds. There was an eclipse of the sun and the moon. For many years, we had been talking about such a cosmic event, and we had even given the exact time. We had judiciously asserted that such an occurrence would take place on February 4, 1962, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. Which happened precisely. We had been saying the same thing for about 15 or 20 years. So when the event happened, when the occurrence arrived, none of the brothers of the international Gnostic movement were surprised. They only saw what had been said so long ago confirmed. A Congress of Worlds, such as it happened on that date and year, at that time, does not happen every day, but only when a new era begins. So, facts are facts, and we have to surrender to the facts. But that's not all. Since that date, something else is yet to happen. We already know that Aquarius is ruled by Saturn and Uranus, and that it is completely revolutionary. Saturn is allegorized in alchemy by the black raven, the return to the primordial, original chaos. As for Uranus, it is perfectly demonstrated that it is 100% rebellious, revolutionary, catastrophic. In this matter related to the stars, there are events, there are occurrences that are worth knowing. Much has been said about Alcyone, and this invites us to reflection. Once, in the higher worlds, I had the opportunity to extensively converse with him. Then I could see that he is indeed an adept of the Great White Brotherhood. He spoke a lot about Alcyone, and mentioned Krishnamurti, in some way relating it to that star. This is deeply significant. Alcyone is a quite interesting sun. Around that sun, there are many other suns orbiting. It has been said that the sun that illuminates us is the seventh sun orbiting Alcyone. Naturally, the scholars of official science will not admit it, but esotericists are aware of the reality of what that great sun signifies. There is a great game of worlds around Alcyone, 7 suns, and each of them illuminates, and gives life to the planets, and satellites that orbit in their respective orbits. We cannot deny that this sun that illuminates us has its group of worlds, which it illuminates and gives life to. When one understands the way in which systems of suns are organized, and how they orbit around their gravitational centers, one advances a lot in the realm of knowledge. The Pleiades have been mentioned in the sacred scriptures, the Bible, and many esoteric teachings. Alcyone is precisely the main sun of the Pleiades, and around it gravitate 7 suns, with our sun being the 7th that revolves around Alcyone. Each sun is the center of a solar system, and Alcyone is the center of 7 solar systems. This invites us to reflect a bit. Let us remember Saturn with its large rings of rock, meteoric sand, and rock, and so on, and so on. These rings are limited exclusively to Saturn. But it is good to know that Alcyone also has its own rings. These in themselves are larger than Saturn's rings, and unlike Saturn's rings, which are made of rock, meteoric stones, sand, and different materials, Alcyone's rings undoubtedly form a unique whole, and are radioactive. They are made up of radiations, but what kind of radiations am I referring to? Simply the radiations that result from the fractionation of electrons. Fractionated electrons release energy, a type of energy that some authors call monasic. This term is Sanskrit, and somehow relates to the lower or lower mind, or the higher or higher mind. The electrons release a type of unknown energy. If the intellectual animal, mistakenly called man, could disintegrate electrons as it disintegrates atoms, it would obviously be prepared to provoke a catastrophe that would not only affect the 3-dimensional part of Euclid, but even more, it would affect the Sapphirothic regions of Hod, or the world of emotions, or Netzach, the world of the mind, or perhaps even Tiferet, the world of natural causes. These regions would suffer great damage. If any madman from Earth could disintegrate the electron, they would have an energy different from what is derived from the fragmentation of atoms. Energy even more terrible than the energy of the H-bomb, or any other deadly element. Fortunately, scientists are still not able to fractionate the electron, and harness the energy locked within them. In Alcyone, there are cases where electrons are fractionated, destroyed. They release a type of unknown energy, different from cathode rays, X-rays, or N-rays. Back in 1974, 3 astronauts orbiting the Earth reported a type of radiation, or a type of unknown energy, unsuspected by official science. Obviously, since 1962, specifically since February 4 of that year, our planet Earth and, in general, the entire solar system, has been on the verge of entering the terrible rings of Alcyone. These rings extend to a few light years, they are immensely huge. However, at some point, our solar system will enter Alcyone's rings. What will happen? Very few suspect. If Earth enters first, as Paul Otto Hess says, it would seem like a great fire, like a true pictorial fire of lights. But if the Sun were the first to enter, according to calculations that have been made, such radiation would interfere with sunlight, and for this reason, there would be darkness that would last 110 hours, after which everything would normalize and, unlike the first case, where everything would seem like a great fire, in this second case darkness would envelop the Earth. But there wouldn't really be darkness, because everything would be sprinkled with lights. To give you an idea, it would be like a rain of stars on the face of the Earth. Then, everything would return to normal. Anyway, our Earth, inside Alcyone's rings, will be subjected to a very special vibration. The molecules, whether they are iron, phosphorus, calcium, copper, nitrogen, carbon, starch, and so on, would be completely modified due to radiation. This implies that you will see a change in matter. The men of science believe they know matter, but they really don't. The concept that we have about matter does not go beyond that, a concept and nothing more. Matter as a substance is unknown to physicists. I do not say that physical matter cannot be destroyed, but the substance itself, that famous Iliaster, that rests after the great cosmic night in the deep darkness of the abyss or endless space, that is not known by modern scientists. Atoms offer many surprises. Scientists know nothing about atoms before existence, and even less will they know about atoms when the universe ceases to exist. Atoms offer many surprises that the man of science, nuclear physics, does not suspect remotely. Atoms carry within them what the Hebrews call fiery particles, hacked or fiery souls. These fiery souls are formidable, without them atoms could not process into the living constitution of matter. So, in reality, nobody knows the powers of, for example, a few grains of sand. We could be sure that nobody knows the powers enclosed there and what the hacked or fiery souls are capable of, which are enclosed in each atom. The great magicians of the East know how to work with these fiery particles of the atoms and chaos. These atoms, driven by the fiery particles, obviously develop formidable powers, that modern scientists do not remotely suspect. Do not be surprised then, by what I say, that the fiery radiation or life-giving radiation of the Alcyone atoms come to alter the molecules of nature. This radiation enveloping the Earth, will be terrible, so terrible that there will be no night for 2,000 years. The whole Earth will be enveloped in such radiation, and the sunlight will not be necessary to see. This radiation will illuminate even the deepest caves, and for 2,000 years there will be no night, but a great continuous day without night. This is written and the wisest scholars agree with it. Obviously, scientists will not accept what we are emphatically affirming today. They will not accept it in any way because it does not align with their scientific abilities, but this is a reality. The organisms of all beings will be modified, both plants, and animals, and so on, and so on. Many plants that do not exist today, many animal species whose germs are dormant at the bottom of the seas, or in rocks, or in the most remote mountains, will be vivified by the radiation, and as a consequence they will come into existence. This event happens every 10,000 years. It has happened before, and will happen again because it follows the celestial transit, and our solar system must pass through the rings of Alcyone. Some may say that Alcyone is very far away, that it is a Pleiades, and that it has nothing to do with our solar system. It is very nice to speak in this ignorant way. But the reality is that the sun that illuminates us is part of Alcyone, and is the seventh. It is a system of suns that revolve around Alcyone. The aforementioned event will last for 2,000 years. The radiation from Alcyone's rings will have a specific influence on the rotation of our planet. This means that the rotation speed on its axis will slow down and, as a consequence, our world will continue to revolve around the sun but in a wider orbit. It will move a little further away from the solar center. The verticalization of the axis of our planet, with respect to the ecliptic, will be a concrete fact. The poles are melting due to the deviation of the Earth's axis. That is already proven. Nowadays, the magnetic pole no longer coincides with the geographic pole. With the terrible radiation from Alcyone, the poles will further deviate. The Count of Saint Germain said, "The first thing to change will be the spring and summer seasons." You can see perfectly well that this spring has had less of a spring-like feel. In the middle of spring, we have had to endure cold weather. The summer has also been different. It seems that the seasons are destined to disappear. The poles are melting, and with the radiation from Alcyone, this process will accelerate. The ice will invade the entire north and south regions. Only the equatorial zone will remain bearable. A new ice age is coming. The Earth has already endured previous ice ages, and a new one is coming. The recent cold in the United States was like nothing seen before. When will our Earth, or rather, our solar system, penetrate the terrible rings of Alcyone? When will we start crossing that ring that we have to cross every 10,000 years? No scientist could say. It is truly unpredictable. But since 1962, we have been on the verge of entering them. It should not surprise us if we enter the rings of Alcyone any moment now. I refer to the facts. The 3 astronauts who orbited the Earth in 1974 reported a strange type of radiation. A terrible change in nature is coming, that is obvious. But the ultimate climax will occur with the arrival of Hercolubus. The arrival of Hercolubus will be preceded by our planet Earth entering the rings of Alcyone. It will be then when we come to understand that physical matter is not always the same. If you believe that physical matter, the one that makes up our world, has always had the same mathematical formulas, you are completely mistaken. It was different during the polar, Hyperborean, Lemurian, and Atlantean eras, and now, as we cross the rings of Alcyone, its mathematical formulas will completely change. Result: the elements that can be used for medicine today, for example, will no longer be useful. The formulas used to treat plants will become superfluous. The formulas for animals will become outdated, as they say. Contemporary physics knowledge will be laughed at by everyone. Everything currently being taught in chemistry will become useless within a few years, with the arrival of Alcyone's radiation, because chemistry will change its formulas. Once again, we will see the pendulum law in action. We are beginning the great cycle of transformations, which started on February 4, 1962, between 2 and 3 p.m., despite what those stubborn ones say. We refer to the facts. There had never been a more magnificent concentration in the sky like the one on February 4, 1962. Let us not be surprised, then, that our solar system enters Alcyone's rings at any moment. We must prepare ourselves from now on. Many will not be able to withstand the radiation and will die. Physical matter will become more radioactive, more phosphorescent, and this will somehow be helpful for our work. It is clear that we must review our behavior daily. We must become more reflective, more careful with our critical judgments, and especially more attentive to our negative emotions. In the field of psychology, we find a lot of disorder in people. Everyone is dragged by negative emotions, and this is very serious. There is nothing more harmful to deep inner development than negative emotions. When you are attacked by a negative emotion, express yourself as best as possible. If a negative emotion has arrived, a negative emotion of envy is eating us to the bone, let us express it in a harmonious way, not in favor of envy, but for the good of others. If a feeling of anger is shaking us at a given moment, let us speak with extraordinary sweetness and, instead of feeling annoyed by what has hurt us, let us speak well of the one who has offended us. This will prevent us from being internally hurt. It is not easy to speak well when you have a negative emotion, but it must be so. If we feel angry because someone has bothered us, let us speak with love, and for the good of the one who has bothered us. It is clear that we should not stay on the surface. We need to eliminate those undesirable psychic elements that have caused us a negative emotion from moment to moment, be it anger, envy, hatred, lust, pride, and so on, and so on. We must do at least that, while we eliminate the add-ons that have caused us the emotions. This way we will not be hurt. Undoubtedly, this world of 48 laws is about to enter the rings of Alcyone. Everyone is shaken by negative emotions. And nothing can be more contagious than them. There are bacteria, viruses, there is no doubt about it. Bacteria cause many diseases, this is proven in test tubes. As for pathogenic viruses, they are infinitely small, and therefore more harmful. Let's see for example the cancer virus, which although some think that it has not been isolated, we have to inform that it has already been isolated in Israel. We do not know what name it was baptized with. We baptized it with the name of cancer, and we have talked extensively about it. It is so small that a powerful electron microscope is needed to study it. In any case, viruses, because they are so small, are more dangerous, more contagious. However, negative people or people with negative emotions are more contagious than viruses and bacteria. Those grumbling people, full of envy, who are bothering all the time, those people full of morbid thoughts all the time, those people who have a persecution complex, bewitched, that everyone hates them, are negative and infect groups. And others. In our work, we isolate such people. If they do not understand, if they feel uncomfortable and think they are not loved, they are mistaken, they are loved and suggested to try to become positive, charming, magnetic. They are offered the opportunity of our studies, but they are isolated in a certain sense, because they are dangerous for groups.